Hello everyone and welcome back to a YI video, and today we're going to be talking about what is currently considered probably the indie darling of gaming at the moment, but certainly one of the best games I've played in a very long time, Helldivers 2. Now, to give you some idea about why it is I so enjoy playing this game, and that's compared to other really great releases that have come out last year and obviously a few years before, but one of the things with me is that I've always been the type of player or customer. I flip between titles all the time. A big thing will come out and it's great. It'll be like Baldur's Gate 3, but another thing will come out not long after Baldur's Gate 3 that's also a really good game, and I'll buy that and I'll play that for a bit. And the next thing comes out, I buy that and I play that for a bit. I'm always chasing a high, let's say. Always looking for the next thing to jump onto and play because it's newer and it's shinier and it's better. And as such, it's very rare for me to stick with one single title for a very long period of time before feeling like I want to play something else now because there's a new thing and I want it. So there's only been a handful of titles over the years that have really stuck with me and kept me playing for such a long time. One of the first ones, and this will probably immediately have some people on there as well. I really enjoyed Overwatch. I played the crap out of Overwatch 1. I was actually more invested in a lot of the character stuff and the world building in the background and that to go with the gameplay that I really enjoyed. Overwatch 2, terrible game, not worth playing. But Exoprimal was another example. I absolutely love the concept of Exoprimal. It's a shame that Capcom didn't do more with that to expand it more rapidly and add more exosuits and gear like that. But that aside, it was another one of those kind of titles that I really went all in for. And I played a hell of a lot of that in a very short space of time over a long period as well. It was kind of a lot of intensity, and then it just continued for months and months afterwards. And it's the same here with Helldivers 2. It's a game that I have so far played for hours every single day since it came out, and it is just an absolute joy from start to finish. It's made by Arrowhead Games, the people who a lot may remember from titles like Magicka. And that's an important thing to keep in mind because it certainly informs the tone of Helldivers and Helldivers 2. The original game I never played, but I was aware of it. I'd sort of kept my eye on it, but I'd never really had an opportunity to sort of jump in and play it because it wasn't a game that I had anyone else to play it with. And it's one of those games that it is better with friends as compared to just jumping in with random people. And Helldivers 2, on the other hand, was such a drastic change, with the original being a kind of top-down isometric. This is a full third-person combat action shooter that has just a absolutely great mix on terms of visuals, map generation, enemy variety, equipment variety, stratagems, and all the rest of it. That it all works so well. It meshes together, and the gameplay is just so rewarding. It's really fun to survive an intense conflict that just escalates all around you. It's like it's kind of fine-tuned, a bit like remember back in the day where certain attacks in things like Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2 would sometimes start small and would steadily escalate to becoming a point where it's like it becomes an absolute chaotic mad brawl as you just ring around desperately fending off just wave after wave of zombies and specials and stuff like that. It's kind of the same vibe where you attack a location with all of the best planning in your head going forward, and the end result is just utter chaos. There's enemies spawning in from multiple directions. You've been scattered to the nine winds in different directions. You're each calling in gun turrets, air strikes, artillery strikes, dropping supplies. You're diving around, you're throwing hand grenades, you're just trying to, you're just in survival mode at that point. Communication's gone out the window, it's every man for himself at this point, and it's absolute chaotic fun. And other times the game can just be, Super Ninja Navy SEAL, you're all set up, you see the base, you're calling in your different things, and you just annihilate the place before the AI's even had a chance to react properly, and you feel like an absolute badass. And the game can just effortlessly slide between both of those scenarios, and it's so good. And I have just been so surprised by how well this has all sort of been put together. As I said, the basic premise of the game is that it is a 4-player cooperative PvE shooter. There is no PvP elements in the game, and they have no intent to add any PvP elements to the game. Literally, the point is that we're in the far future, humanity have expanded throughout the stars, building colonies all over the place, and it's all led by Super Earth. Basically, the governments, the countries, the nations of Earth have all formed together and formed a super democracy. But it's obviously a corrupted, horrible future version of democracy. Think Starship Troopers level, the movie version, not the books, of this sort of society that push consumerism and so-called liberty and freedoms to an extreme, perverting and mutating them to the point where everyone is kind of walking around like a kind of brainwashed zombie, or someone who is secretly terrified that if they are found not to be democratic enough, they may find themselves in a prison or worse. In this ridiculous society. And it's come under attack, basically. The Terminids, being one of them, are the bug threat. So, again, very Starship Troopers and the inspiration here. Hive-minded creatures that were being farmed by humanity for a, I think it's E710, I think it is a type of resource that they use to fuel their ships. So they can jump around the galaxy. Basically, the Terminids have broken free of their farms and have rapidly expanded across several sectors of space. So they're causing trouble. The Helldivers are sent in, which are what you play as. Special. I'd be sort of cautious to call them elite. I would say probably the most fanatical is probably the better way of putting them. They are the fanaticists of Super Earth, armed to the teeth and sent into the most dangerous locations where no normal soldiers would be dropped, with objectives to disrupt and destroy the enemy at every possible turn, and then get out before there are just too many enemies for them to feasibly deal with. That's the basic premise, essentially, of the game. There's another enemy faction as well. There are the bots, as they're called. They're the evolution of an enemy from the first game, which were cyborgs originally. Now the bots are entirely robotic. There are no human elements left of them, and they are also causing trouble for Super Earth, attacking the sort of colonized systems and taking people hostage, probably back to their dark lairs beyond the fringes of known space. And so you have these two very distinct enemy varieties at the moment, which I'll get to in a bit. As I said, so the basic premise is doing these drops, and there are quite a few different mission types in there depending on what faction you're fighting against. For instance, fighting against the bugs will have you doing things like, some of these missions will carry across to obviously both sides, but some of them are kind of unique. You'll have things where you'll have to close a certain number of hives that the Terminids have open. You'll have to gather core samples for geological surveys, launching ICBMs, basically obtaining data, sending crashed drop pod information back to the ships, that kind of thing. Being able to gather research information and sending it back to Super Earth. With the bots, you'll have things where you have to blow up munition and fuel supplies, destroy drop ships, disrupting supply lines essentially for the front line. And others can be things to assassinate particularly large targets like Bile Titans for the Terminids. And there's enough mission variety, I'd say, at the moment that it never really gets boring so far. It's been quite fun. The way the game works with maps is that so far there are several planets that cover different varieties of terrain. I've seen snowy sort of tundra type terrain, obviously we've got ice and stuff, as well as thick snowdrifts, deserts, jungles, sort of temperate environments, then just like kind of what they call now, moors, sort of type environments and stuff like that. Some people want urban centres, but I honestly don't know if the engine would be able to handle urban centres. Not saying I wouldn't happily jump into maps like that, but I don't know if the game is kind of set up around that type of environment for the gameplay. There could be some technical limitations as well, depending on certain background elements, but suffice to say, I feel like there's enough visual variety in the maps that it's not too bad, because when you drop in, the maps are procedurally generated. The objectives are dotted around these locations, and you then have to go in, complete your primary objectives, and then extract. And you can see where all of the primaries are and where the extraction location will be prior to a drop. In amongst these maps will be other points of interest, items that you can find that may give you vital resources, or just stock up on ammunition and healing items, while also being able to find other goodies like rare weaponry, or being able to get things like super credits and medals. Now, these are two resources in the game that you will definitely want to get hold of. The one to get out of the way first is super credits. It's a premium currency. You can buy them. You can buy super credits for real money. At the moment, you don't have to. There's no requirement for you to do such. But finding super credits, they're fairly common in maps. You'll get about 10 or 20, I think it is, per pickup, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they build up over time, because if you scour enough maps, you'll generally find enough super credits. Any player who picks up super credits, it goes to everyone in the squad, so everybody is gaining at the same time. Medals is an important resource because that is a type of item that you use on what's called a war bond. And I'm going to preface this, I'm going to say... I wouldn't actually, no, I won't say it's a battle pass, because it really, it kind of is, kind of isn't. It's a unique thing. It's more like a catalogue. So essentially, I think the future premise of these war bonds is that they will be the things that you buy with super credits, and you unlock them. And within these catalogues are basically all of the new weapons and equipment that will be, you know, added in future updates. Currently, there are 2 war bonds. One of them you get if you have the super, I think it's the Super Citizen edition of the game, which gets you the Steeled Veterans one, and there's the launch one, which is free for everybody, called Helldivers Mobilize. And within these catalogues, there are things like, there are new weapons, there are armor sets, capes, emotes, boosters, which unfortunately, due to the wording of them, are not temporary. They are permanent items. You can cycle out whatever booster you want for whatever mission, depending on what you think would be most valuable, and super credits as well. So you can kind of get back several hundred super credits in each catalogue, which you can save. There is also a super store, which generally just has armor sets, but they aren't pay to win. They're just more unique varieties visually of armor. Armors do carry bonuses, but from looking at the ones in the war bonds and the ones in the superstore, they have the exact same bonuses. So it's not like, oh, if you pay real money to get this armor set, you've got like more ammunition or more health or stuff like that. For example, they just have the same bonuses, which range from things like being able to carry more stims than normal, 6 instead of 4, being able to throw deployables at a greater distance than normal, having more limb health, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's fairly it's fairly innocuous. They're not, as I said, they're not things to make the game easier and to make other players feel like they're missing out. They're literally just more of a kind of a style choice, let's say. So yeah, one of the big things with the game, outside of obviously dropping in and just shooting up the place, is stratagems, as they're called. These are unlockable supply and support abilities that you can get via an in-game currency that you earn through play missions called Requisition, and by leveling up, and you can get access to all of these slowly over time. These range from things like being able to call in support weaponry, like heavy machine guns, light machine guns, one-shot AT rockets, laser-guided missiles, basically javelin launchers, recoilless rifles, shoulder-mounted laser cannons, and all these kind of like mad heavy weapons, which you will need. There are plenty of enemies in the game that these weapons will be very useful for. Oh, or being able to carry like a man-pack auto cannon, for instance, for taking out armoured foes. This kind of thing. Very, very fun. But it gets better. There's the ability to call in airstrikes, napalm, cluster bombs, gun runs, missile pods, smoke rounds. I think there's gas rounds and stuff like that. 500 kilogram bombs. Artillery strikes that range from 100 to 380mm high explosive barrages, pinpoint rail cannon strikes, laser guided strikes, being able to drop precision orbital strikes, airburst munitions, and many more. Turrets that you can drop, things like Tesla coils, autocannon, missile turrets, minigun turrets, machine gun turrets, mortars, and like backpack equipment, things that deploy drones that fire machine guns or lasers at the enemy, or being able to have a personal shield, being able to drop an area of effect shield to protect you and the squad from incoming fire. Very good against the bots. Amongst many others, and these things can be taken in, I think it's a max of 4 per player, in any combination you feel. You want to go entirely built up with defensive equipment, turrets and minefields, go ahead. You want to be the player who's entirely built around airstrikes, you can do that. You can diversify within the squad and communicate beforehand what it is you want to take before you go into a mission, especially if you know, say it's a mission where you have to disrupt supply lines, so you're going to be blowing up munitions caches and fuel dumps. Well, a couple of you may want to drop in with just big meaty artillery drops, and you can call them all in at the same time. And that's what I was talking about with the game just turning into absolute chaos. There's no shared cooldown on these things. Everybody, for instance, can take a 380mm high explosive barrage call in. They all activate at the same time, you can all throw it at the same time, or one after the other, and just have a constant rolling barrage of massive explosives just dropping into a location to clear the area out. But you can also coordinate, where you can have airstrikes going in, backed up by artillery strikes, and then finally a couple of turrets to mop up whatever else comes out of, shambles out of the base after the big explosions have all stopped. And then you can just be sat there waiting for the targets before you roll in and clear it out and close the hive up, or shut down the bot production factory. Whatever way you want to go about it, it's possible. And you can be as tactical as you want, or you can just go in like a bunch of idiots, just flinging shit around and blowing stuff up. It's immense fun. Helldivers 2 is one of those games that is just really, really caught on, and I genuinely hope that they just go even bigger and better as this game develops more. New war bonds with just crazier weaponry, more interesting stuff like that, diversify more of the armor set bonuses, being able to give us more map variety, and obviously more enemies and such. I know the first game had a third faction that was an alien faction called the Illuminates. They're not in this, but obviously there's no doubt, looking at that galactic map, we're going to see a third faction, possibly a fourth, going into the future. But there's just so much that I feel like if I talk too long, it'll be a video that is far too long to really for people to want to stick around and listen to. But there is just a lot that is just so fun about the game. Death is not the end, as far as a mission is concerned. If everyone dies, as long as you've got enough respawns, you all just drop right back in. I mean, dying can become a tactical thing where it's a case of, well, if I die, someone can call in a reinforcement. You drop in, but you can guide your drop pod and just slam down on top of a large enemy target and kill it instantly, because the Helldive pod is itself a massive bullet fired from the ship. Friendly fire is just part and parcel of the game's world. You know, your turrets that you're dropping, they're good, but they will shoot through you to get to the enemy. They don't care. They're just robots that are just programmed to shoot at the target that they are to shoot at. You've got to be careful. Obviously, your own stratagems can blow you up depending on where you throw them. Communication is key in scenarios, but it's also a case of it just being a little bit over the top, just for the funsies' sake of just accidentally nuking each other, because you weren't aware of where other players were at the time, or the direction that your strike was going to come in when you launched it. There is a great element of just unpredictability about some of the fights. Weapons all feel solid. You can fire them in first person if you prefer to be a little more accurate. You can't play the game entirely in first person, but all of the shooting you can do from that perspective. Some heavy weapons can be worked in tandem, where one person is aiming and firing, another person can attach themselves carrying the weapons backpack and arm you, so you can have more rapid fire. You can use, say, an autocannon on your own with the backpack on your back, and you can reload it much slower. But if another person carries the backpack for you, they can attach to you and reload it. It's just, it's such a cool little touch, and all of these things just add up collectively for a game that just is just immense fun. I've whittled on for 20 minutes about this, and there's so much I've missed, but I do plan on making more videos that go into more of the specifics about Helldivers 2. I just wanted to talk about this game, have some footage of us dropping in, having a big gunfight with whatever faction at the time I'm recording this audio, and just hopefully highlighting just how much fun the game is. It is a genuine treat, and the price is not breaking the bank. Over here it's $34.99. I think that works out at maybe around $40 odd in the US, around about 40 odd euros. Well worth it, honestly. Genuinely well worth it. The developers deserve all the credit they get. They deserve it in terms of just the sales. They have done really, really well at the moment. The game has a really healthy audience on Steam, no likely the same on PS5. If whatever version of the game you want to play, go ahead. It has crossplay. Yeah, it's just great. I love it. Helldivers 2 is just solid fun. It's great. If you can play with a bunch of friends, do so, because it just makes the experience even better. And yeah, which is not enough. I highly recommend, wholeheartedly recommend. I love Helldivers 2. It is a game that I will no doubt stream many more times going forward. I'm looking forward to the new updates in the future. They've already shown us mech suits that we'll be able to get in and pilot at some point. So yeah, it can only go up from here. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to what the future of Helldivers 2 is going to bring. And yeah, it's great. Play it. If you're mildly interested, give it a look. It's so much fun. But until then, have a good one. Thanks all for listening, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye.